Is these bitches trying me? Oh, these bitches got diabetes. It was me, Jay-Z, and Diddy. Jay-Z hated that. Anyways, hello, you guys. Welcome to the next episode of the Sovereign Initiative. I think that's the first time I've said that. If you guys don't know, this is called the Sovereign Initiative, and I think maybe I'm enough episodes in to kind of explain what it is. So, the Sovereign Initiative, I hope y'all can't hear Nicki blasting in my headphones. They're going to copyright me. But if you don't know what the Sovereign Initiative is the series that I'm working on right now, where we break down the archetypes that are involved in the paradigm, both on the old side and the new side, and we kind of like figure out why it is that certain things are happening in the industry, why we're getting, one version of music, and then why other versions of music are being suppressed, and why other artists can't release music at all, right? And it all has to do with the old paradigm trying to maintain power by suppressing the divine feminine energy. So yeah, that's what this all is about. Just, waking people up one person, one topic at a time, so that we start making conscious choices about not only who do we champion, but who do we listen to, and be more observing of the things that are going on. Because if you kind of understand it from this perspective, you don't actually have to know exactly what happened between two people to, kind of start decoding the spiritual war that is taking place behind closed doors. So let's just get right into it. So this episode is about the pseudo queen versus the sovereign queen. So I think we see this like pretty obvious, right? The music industry, right, is a branch of the paradigm's market matrix, right, where everything is transactional and for sale, right? So it systematically promotes the pseudo queen archetype. I think we know this more commonly as, the prostitute girl, like the city girl, or, however you want to see it, right? A woman whose power is transactionally tied to a man and based on selling a distorted, hypersexual image of femininity, right? And this is done in order to suppress the reemergence of the true sovereign feminine, right? Whose power is innate, multifaceted, and threatens the patriarchy's control over the structures of both the industry, the government, the world, right? So the pseudo queen, right, her power is an illusion, right? It's granted by the patriarchal system. Her sexuality and image are commodities used to generate wealth for the system, and she is always replaceable, right? I.e., the current wave of female rappers, right? There's a reason why it's Cardi, Megan, Lotto, Sexy Red. And it just seems like we just get one after another. Glorilla, right? It just seems like they just keep coming, and none of them are having genuine success, longevity, or really making any money. Like, if we really get into it, and I've broken down these girls' numbers before, but this is why, right? And I think at the time that I was doing this, everyone felt like, oh, like, you're just hating on the girls. But no, I'm not hating on the girls. I'm trying to let y'all know that the patriarchy, the system, the matrix does not care about these women. They are commodities. There are tools. In the system of the patriarchy, the market matrix, whatever you want to call it, women are not sovereign. They do not reign. They can only be used as pawns. Right? They cannot stand on their own. So that's why there's not another female sovereign other than Nicki Minaj. And I think when I say this, like, people are always like, oh my God, you're such a barb. I'm so tired of the barbs. I wish it was that simple as being a barb. It's so much deeper than that, right? It's what her energy represents to the music industry that is a threat. It's not the fact that she's Nicki Minaj. It's the fact that Nicki Minaj won't bend to their will that makes her a threat. If Nicki Minaj today started playing by their game, they would allow her to do anything she wants to do. If she started playing her position as a queen next to a king, instead of a queen who rules her own empire, then they would have no problem with her. Because the sovereign feminine, the queen, is the integrated feminine who commands her own empire, embodies the multiple facets of the woman, right? The mother, the lover, the warrior, the mystic, right? She cannot be controlled by the matrix. Another good example of that is Lauryn Hill, right? There's a reason that Lauryn Hill only made one album. No one ever talks about it, right? No one ever says, why did Lauryn only make one album? Why did she only have one song? My guess would be that the empire attempted to control her, bend her to their will, and she didn't do that. And I wouldn't even say that they're the only ones, right? There was a slew of women that came before Nicki Minaj who embodied this. Queen Latifah, right? Lady Light or whatever. Don't make me name more because I really don't know too much about them girls. Don't make me name anymore. But yeah. So it's always been a war on this feminine energy and the masculine energy, right? I think I made a video about that when I spoke about Drake, right? We don't see those type of men anymore who used to worship or endear the divine feminine energy, the Sophia frequency. So as you can see, it's very purposeful, the elimination of feminine energy, to a point where they have even masculinized the feminine energy. Selling yourself for sex is the masculinization of the feminine energy. Using it to make money or to support the dynamic of the corrupt masculine. Okay, so let's just talk about the old paradigm's only script, right? This is the only script that the paradigm has, right? And it kind of started with Lil' Kim. So it kind of makes sense why Nicki Minaj and Lil' Kim, or why they tried to engineer a beef between Nicki Minaj and Lil' Kim and make it seem like Nicki Minaj had something to do with Lil' Kim's demise, when in reality, Nicki Minaj tricked the empire into thinking that she would work for their sexual fantasy of women and bend to their will, only for her to come out with an album like Pink Friday and The Pink Print and Queen that completely disrupted their ideology or their mission to corrupt the sovereign feminine, right? Everyone always talks about that picture of Nicki Minaj where she's like licking the lollipop and comparing it to Lil' Kim. Nicki Minaj very strategically fooled the empire into believing that she would be a pawn for their desires. Anyways, the blueprint is always the same for the empire, right? A woman's power is derivative and sexual. Her empire is not her own. It's an extension of a man, like Lil' Kim and Biggie, right? Or the record label, like Cardi B. As long as Lil' Kim had Biggie, she was allowed to reign supreme, right? She could be a queen long as she stood next to a king, right? What did Nicki say in her song? You could be the king, but watch the queen conquer. They did not like that. They did not like that. Even her word choices, her lyricism is a direct threat to the old paradigm's frequency. Wow. So the moment, going back to Lil' Kim, the moment that Biggie died, the empire started strategically getting rid of Lil' Kim. Little Kim is not allowed to exist without a man. And that's why Little Kim is gone. Not because of Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj did not architect Little Kim's demise. The industry did. Because they do not want women to be able to stand on their own. They are systems. I mean, our system does not support queens, only pawns. So Nicki Minaj was the anomaly. You know, right? Nicki Minaj's initial reign was a complete paradigm shift of the music industry, which is why we did not get any music steadily or as consistently or as impactful as Nicki Minaj for almost a decade, right? She didn't sell an image. She embodied a spectrum of femininity, right? From the aggressive woman to the nurturing mother archetype of the moment for life ideology, right? Or the your love warrior princess. Nicki did it all. She gave us everything wrapped into one. She gave us sex. She gave us love. She gave us nurturing. She gave us worship. She gave it all. And the paradigm that we exist in now hates that, which is why they started doing weird stuff to her, snubbing her at Grammys and award shows and trying to force her into this box so that they could rule over her, right? And even her partnership with a certain male king, right, Jay-Z, was an attempt to bribe her. It was an attempt to bribe her into submission, right? Offer her a spot at Rock Nation. Offer her a spot next to Kanye and Jay-Z so that she wouldn't feel the desire to rule alone. Yes, right. That is the truth of it, right? But Nicki Minaj never stopped. The Pink Print specifically was a direct attack, an act of war on the empire. And then Queen was even worse. Oh my God. No wonder they tried to snub Queen. They did not want that energy out of there. But yeah, so that's the point, right? They don't want a multifaceted feminine who can play with her allure as the courtesan without being one, right? Nicki can be the mother, a nun, a warrior, a businesswoman, because that is the image, that is what it means to be a divine feminine, right? It's the wholeness. That is where her power lies. And that is something that the Matrix cannot control. And they hate that. So what do? They start jamming the frequency, right? The Matrix true solution to a sovereign queen, the Matrix ultimate solution to a true sovereign queen is not to fight her directly, but to jam her frequency by flooding the zone with counterfeits, right? The introduction of Cardi B, right? This was a master stroke of spiritual warfare. It created a false dichotomy, Nicki versus Cardi, right? Making it appear like a cat fight over territory, which is a low vibrational narrative, rather than a war on archetypes. Cardi being the pseudo queen and Nicki being the true sovereign feminine, right? It weaponized jealousy, a frequency that the sovereign feminine does not even operate on, to distort the public's perception of Nicki Minaj's energy, right? So now when you hear Nicki, you want to say that she's jealous, she's hating, and you don't want to listen to the frequency of the sovereign. So thereby removing your access. Y'all be seeing that me? Removing your access to the sovereign feminine energy frequency and distorting it so you don't know what's real and what's fake, right? Cardi's narrative, right? A stripper, a dirty stripper at that, a dirty stripper from the Bronx, teeth fucked up, crib is filthy. These her words, not mine, right? Dirty stripper, filthy, dramatic bitch from Love and Hip Hop, right? who represented everything nasty about femininity, right? Her come up is that of a courtesan, right? A courtesan that was crowned in an empire, being on Love and Hip Hop, fighting over men, right? Even her husband, right? Staying with a cheating man for 7 years is a humiliation ritual. Y'all have to start clocking things for what it is, right? Seeing Cardi B as a queen when she was married to a man who cheated on her throughout their entire relationship is asinine. She could never be the sovereign feminine archetype, ever. She doesn't. Now she's pregnant by a DL bisexual man who has 4 other babies on the way and sexual assault allegations. Right? This is the hallmark of the pseudo queen, right? Who mistakes a man, an access to man's empire for her own power, right? Which is the label as well, right? It's not just Offset. It's the label as well. Her access to the label, what the label is willing to do for her, how much money they're willing to put on her, how much they're willing to destroy the other people in order to elevate her. She mistakes that for power. That's not power. She has no power, right? Her power is conditional on her loyalty to the empire. And the moment that she turns against the empire, they will take her out too. So then the floodgate opens, right? Once the blueprint is proven successful, right? Once they realize that they can push the pseudo queen archetype, right? Which is Cardi B, and pit it against the sovereign queen dynamic, they start mass producing it. So then we get Megan Thee Stallion, we get Lotto, we get Ice Spice, we get Glorilla. We get all of these like over-sexualized versions of a queen or princess when they represent none of the above, right? They don't actually represent that multi-dimensional sovereign energy. This creates a veil of normalcy, right? This is when they started normalizing being overtly sexual. What did they do next after that? Drop OnlyFans. It's not a coincidence, right, that all of these things essentially happen at the same time. They introduced you to the frequency of the pseudo queen first by pushing Cardi B, pushing Megan Thee Stallion, pushing WAP, right? They give you all of it, and then they introduce the tools in order for you to further sell yourself. My anaconda don't want nothing unless you got buns, huh? Okay. Anyways, so yeah, now you think it's normal, right? You think casual sex is normal now. You think lusting is normal now. You think having sex for money is normal now. You think all interactions with men are transactional now because that's the frequency that they pushed onto you. So that's what you're going to believe. This is a war for the soul of femininity. Right? This is not about judging individuals, but about decoding a systemic attack on the archetype of the sovereign woman. The old paradigm, the empire, understands that a woman who knows that she is a queen, who owns her own throne and her own frequency, is utterly ungovernable. She is not to be controlled. Therefore, she must be eliminated, right? Therefore, must be promote a model of femininity that is dependent, manageable, and ultimately disposable. And before I make my closing point, right, the current landscape is a spiritual battle between the innate creative power of the sovereign feminine and the manufactured transactional image of the pseudo queen. The throne itself is at stake. So if y'all wonder why I personally defend Nicki Minaj as hard as I do, is because I can see the war that is happening behind the scenes and what this is actually about. I might not always agree with Nicki Minaj's war tactics, but at the end of the day, Nicki Minaj is on the right side of history. And so I will remain on the right side as well. So yeah, I hope you guys found this interesting. I surely did. Yeah. So until next time, no, I don't know what the next episode is. I am stuck right here for right now. Bye, you guys.